I'm Teisha Bader. Thank you for joining me. Many of you are likely familiar with United Hatzalah, an incredible volunteer-based organization which provides emergency medical response in Israel. Last year, its amazing volunteers who come from all backgrounds responded to more than 750,000 calls throughout Israel, saving lives every day. And we are so honored to have the president and founder of United Hatzalah of Israel, Eli Beer, here in our Times Square studio in New York City. Eli, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be with you.
Of course. So tell me how this amazing organization came to be. You are the founder. What happened? What was the impetus to starting this?
Well, I was a child growing up in Israel, and when I was a little kid, I saw a bus blow up in Jerusalem. This was the first blow up of a bus in Israel. It was the number 12 bus blown up by Yasser Arafat, the PLO.
So we're talking about late 70s?
Late 70s, and 6 people were murdered in that bus attack. A lot of children were on the bus injured, and I saw people screaming for help. So growing up, I was seeing ambulances passing by, and I was thinking, why, when we had this terrible attack, people were just laying there for so long and no one was getting help? And I said, when I grow up, I want to save people's lives. And I used to visit Yad Vashem a lot and see what the horrors of Hitler and how many Jews were murdered. And I said, what if one day I could save Jews, and save people, not only Jews, but save people? And when I was 15, I went to volunteer in an ambulance, and I realized, being in the back of an ambulance, you need an ambulance to transport people, but if you want to get there on time, almost impossible to get there with an ambulance. I was in the back of an ambulance, stuck in traffic. I used to see motorcycles passing us to deliver pizza. And I always said to my friends, if I ever choke, call for a pizza. And the idea came up in my head, I need to create a fast medical response, paramedics on motorcycles, and respond faster to every emergency. And that's where the idea came from.
That's so beautiful, first of all, that you had that thought as a child, and as an adult, you made it happen. It's honestly an incredible and inspiring thing.
Thank you.
So the motorcycles, how does that work? So it's one person responding, or at a time? What happens when you get a call to the call center? Who goes out? How does it work?
So the idea is really to have a network of people. Today it's easier for me to explain it, but 36 years ago, when I was 16 years old, when I started it with 15 of my friends, people thought I'm crazy, and now people know I'm crazy. But then people thought I'm crazy and said, what are you talking about? 90-second response? That doesn't exist anywhere. I said, yes, it could exist. If we have enough people everywhere in the community. So if someone is choking, if someone's having a heart attack, if a kid fell into a pool, they'll always have someone nearby. How do we get these people to be notified? So then we used a very advanced technology then. It was called pagers. Now the Hezbollah use them. You know, the ones that blow up in Lebanon? That's what we used 36 years ago. And we bought our volunteers pagers. We wanted to know about emergencies happening. We didn't know because the ambulances didn't want to share calls with us then. So we bought police scanners in Radio Shack. We had an underground command center broadcasting to our pagers every emergency. So we had a network of volunteers in the community. We would drive these motorcycles that we equipped it like an ambulance, so we called it ambucycles. And every corner of the neighborhood had volunteers. So that's why we got there so quick. Today, it's easier to explain it because you have Uber. Uber is what we started as Hatzalah, United Hatzalah. We united people from all backgrounds, religious and secular, men and women, Jews and Arabs. We have now 800 Arab volunteers who are volunteering with us.
That's incredible.
And they respond to calls that are nearby them. We have technology that locates the closest 5 volunteers. So if something happens nearby you and you are one of our volunteers, you will be notified that someone needs you. Even if you're now interviewing the President of the United States, but if a child is choking now, you say, sorry, Mr. Trump, President Trump, I have a child choking. I am a volunteer of United Hatzalah. I have to go save that person. So that's the idea.
That's amazing. And I want to talk for a minute about your volunteers who are truly heroes every day, right? These are people, as you said, from all backgrounds, religions, from across Israel. And how many do you have now?
Now we're holding on over 8,000 volunteers,
Wow.
getting close to 8,500. These are all people who get no salary for what they're doing. They get no compensation. They respond on their own time. They could lose money if they're plumbers. They're losing money not fixing people's pipes. If they're taxi drivers, they're not driving anyone to their destinations. They will stop everything they do any time of the day and night and respond to calls. No matter who they're talking to. They could be a lawyer who's representing a client has to stop the meter. The same way the taxi driver, and they go to save someone and then they come back. They go back to work. It's an incredible idea of volunteers that changed the way Israel is responding to emergencies. We are leading the fastest medical response in the world, and we get other people and other organizations following us. Many places around the world are learning from this now and seeing what Israel is doing. And as we're talking now, we have a team in Colombia, not the university, that's too dangerous, the country I'm talking about, who are copying United Hatzalah now.
Wow, how interesting. Speaking of response, so we need to talk about October the 7th, of course. I was just reading a little bit about how United Hatzalah rose to the occasion in a situation that no one expected. Not United Hatzalah, not any of us, something that was not foreseen. Can you just give us some sense of what happened that day and how people were mobilized and what they reported back to you?
Well, the Jewish people, Israel, we always want to live in peace. So people fell asleep. We actually living in a, like we say, la la land. No one's going to attack us. Like, what's the chances of us getting attacked from thousands of terrorists coming into Israel? The worst we had was 2 or 3 terrorists coming into the country. My son that day was in the army, actually. They posted him up north. So most of Israel's response down south was like on vacation because of the holiday, because of Shabbat, and because of Simchat Torah.
Simchat Torah, right.
United Hatzalah, we had 8,000 volunteers on call for a war or for someone having a heart attack. So our volunteers had their shoes next to their beds, had their pagers or technology ready to go if something happens nearby. They had their cars ready with medical supplies, and they jumped out of bed early in the morning at 6:30. We got the call. One of our volunteers, his name was Dolev Yehud. His sister Arbel was kidnapped as well, and
Yes.
and she was released, thank God, and still her boyfriend was never released. But Dolev jumped out of bed at 6:30 a.m. because of the missiles. And then when the neighbors next door were attacked by terrorists, he had his wife, who was pregnant then, Siggy, with her 3 kids, in a bomb shelter in their home, little tiny home. You have to understand, these are Neros. Everyone has like a 600 feet house.
Yeah.
This is the tiny homes they lived in. They had a little bomb shelter, and Dolev left his wife there and went out to save their next door neighbor, the Bibas family. Now he thought he's just going to go help them out because something happened, and he was a first responder. He wore one of these vests. This is a bulletproof vest. A bullet can't go through this. But unfortunately, he was captured by the terrorists when he went to save his neighbors. And he was killed immediately by the terrorists, murdered. They took 10 months to recover his body because they burned it. That's how we found ourselves on October 7th. I was actually woken up when another volunteer of ours was shot. He was actually shot. Thank God he wasn't killed because he responded to the police station in Sderot. And he thought it was a small attack. Everyone thought it was a small attack, but we had thousands of volunteers who jumped out of bed to everyone treat someone. We treated 12,500 people that day.
Wow.
We lost 3 volunteers. The first one was Dolev Yehud.
I'm so sorry.
And one of our volunteers, Bar Cooperstein, who was saving lives in the Nova Festival, and his father, Tal Cooperstein, and his mother, Julie, they were very involved with the United Hatzalah for many years, and Bar was 21 when he was kidnapped, and he's still a hostage now in Gaza. So that's how we started that day, and I'm very proud. This week, the President of Israel recognized the highest award ever as a President's Award, but the highest, it's called Ot HaGvura, the courage thing of 2 United Hatzalah volunteers who survived and saved lives, and a man and a woman who saving lives on October 7th. And we had that day every single volunteer out, saving people, helping people, including myself and my wife and my 4 kids, and my son was in the Army.
It's, it's been, we're going to reach the 2-year mark in not too many months, and it's still shocking and just so horrible.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here, you and I, we're taping this on July the 22nd, and there are still 50 hostages, as you mentioned, some of them still being held in Gaza. Now, today is 655 days. Unreal, right? We never thought that day either that this would be ever. You, I know, you're also friends with the Nutras, whose son Omer, may he rest in peace. His remains are still being held, and you're in touch with Ronen and Orna, and you promised them you'd go to Hostage Square and for them. And what has that been like for you, just to have this contact?
I love them. They're such incredible people.
Yeah, he's American-Israeli, by the way. Omer was a lone soldier.
In Long Island, from right here.
Yep.
And, President Biden, who loved Israel, really, really, really was a very devoted Zionist, like he said, for many, many years. He supported Israel, met with Orna and Ronen, and was shocked that, what? Your son is dead and you're still fighting for his body like he's alive? And afterwards, President Trump, the same thing, shocked. They are 24/7 devoted for one thing, getting the hostages out, including the ones who are not alive, the ones who were murdered by the terrorist. We have an incredible nation. We should be very proud to be Jewish.
You're so right, because they are one example. I feel like all the hostage families, even the ones who get their children or their husband or wives back, have not stopped fighting for everyone to get back, because their feeling is that has to happen in order for the state, for the people to move forward. And we are responsible, right? One for each other as the Jewish people.
Israel Aravim
Ze lazeh, exactly.
And I told, I said to Orna and Ronen, I run about 2,000 kilometers a minute. I treat 2,200 people every day in United Hatzalah, and I'm so busy. But I said, I'm going to go to Hostage Square, and I want to go respect the memory of Omer. And I drove there just a few days ago, and I went to Tel Aviv, and I go there, and the big picture of Omer, right next to him is Bar Cooperstein. And I was like, I felt like, I'm so close to the Nutras, and right next to them is another family I'm very close to, Bar Cooperstein. So many of these families I know and I love. And look, I know the Yehud family, Dolev Yehud's sister Arbel is suffering so much that her boyfriend is not here. And every single one of them is like a whole world.
Olam bimlo'o.
Olam bimlo'o. And that's the beauty about the Jewish people. And, JBS is, it represents so many people watch you guys and want to see hope. I think the love that we have to each other is our hope. The care that we have for each other is our hope. And we want to make sure that this goes from generation to generation. It doesn't stop. And I think October 7 woke everyone up. 90-year-old people and 9-year-old people all woke up that day in a day that we will never want to have happen again. But we have to always be prepared. And we realize that we have enemies who want to kill us only for one reason. That we were born different. We were born with a different belief than them. And that's the only reason they want to kill us. It's a Jewish, issue for 3,000 years that we're dealing with, that we believe in our religion, and that's why they want to kill us. No other reason.
You spoke about passing something to the next generation and keeping that alive for generations to come. And I want to talk a bit about how we go about making sure that the younger generations continue that level of caring, of passion, especially, for example, for United Hatzalah. And we have been running a promo on JBS for this wonderful initiative called the Leight Legacy Heroes, which is directly about getting young people involved and caring about groups like United Hatzalah, caring each Jew for each other. Can you tell us a little bit about that initiative?
Well, I started my journey as a lifesaver when I was 15 years old. And I'm not 15 anymore. I feel like I'm 15.
It comes across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the beard
I hear you.
And the lack of hair. So I grew up and I save lives every day, but my kids follow my footsteps because they see me.
Right.
And I hope my grandchildren do. But what about millions of kids who don't grow up in this environment? Their parents are working, are doing good, they're raising them as good children, but they don't see the example of what their parents are doing for Israel or doing for the Jewish community. And they need a shining example of how to follow someone. So this is an idea that came up in the mind of Lynn and Paul Leight, who said, we love Israel, we love the Jewish community, we support Jewish causes, our children support us. Thank God our grandchildren support us, but what about others who don't have these examples of people like them? Let's train others to be, the followers, the younger generation. And I remember a story, a really incredible story that I heard from Sheldon Adelson. And I look at people like that, like Paul and Lynn, and I look at stories like Sheldon, who's not alive anymore, and he said to me that his father came over to him and he gave him a tzedakah box. And he told me this 15 years ago. Gave him a tzedakah box, and he says you should put in every day a little penny. Just every day a penny or whatever it was then. And he said, Daddy, I don't have money. And his father was a taxi driver. And his father says, well, some people have less than you. And he started putting money every day. And then when he emptied it out and he gave it out to charity, whatever it was that he gave it to, that's when he felt unbelievable. And he said, I love it. I want to do more. If you don't feel the feeling of giving, you'll never give. You need to feel it when you're young.
To experience it yourself and see what that emotional response is when you actually. So this initiative, and we're going to play
Lynn,
it.
by the way, told me the same story with
really?
Paul and Lynn. They started giving the money, in the blue tzedakah box.
Yeah.
So we said, how do we create that again? Not only in the giving, financial giving, but how do we get volunteers to start? This week in Israel, we had a training course for children from the Arab communities. In Israel, children, I'll show you the pictures, you could show it. Children, Arab communities in Israel, we send United Hatzalah volunteers there to show the kids what United Hatzalah is all about. All the kids got so excited, they got some hats or whatever it was, and they want to be volunteers when they grow up.
That's wonderful.
So we're doing both sides, showing the kids how to volunteer and showing the kids how to give.
We're going to play the clip for you so you can get a better idea of the Leight Legacy Heroes initiative. Take a look.
In Israel, when an emergency occurs, a miracle happens. Medics are on the scene, often in 90 seconds. Lives are saved. United Hatzalah medics are heroes, and now you can be a hero too. You can help medics get all the life-saving equipment that they need. With just $180, you can fund an oxygen tank that goes directly towards a medic, just like me. And the best part, your name goes right on the tank. Yup, every time it's used to save a life, you're part of it. Demonstrate the type of person you are and be recognized for your efforts. Start a campaign, raise money with friends, make it your bar bat mitzvah project, get community service credit. Join the Heroes Leadership Board to impress colleges. Learn leadership and life-saving skills. and join a community of like-minded kids. And for the chance to win amazing prizes for yourself. To become a Leight Legacy Hero, simply register at israelrescue.org/heroes and raise money for an urgently needed oxygen tank any way you want. Saving a life is the greatest mitzvah. Register to become a hero today and help save lives.
It's also, they mentioned you can do this for your bar bat mitzvah project. It's such a wonderful idea, because I know parents often look for that, or kids look for a purpose, a goal, something that inspires them, and this is just such a beautiful thing. And
yeah, they join a group of thousands of kids.
Yeah.
We already have hundreds who joined. We will be thousands of kids who will do different activities with them. And they have missions. Let's say a child, he has a few months to do something, and they could raise money for an oxygen tank. One oxygen tank saves the lives of 10 people a year. Costs $180. A kid could raise a few dollars here. He could do a bakery, or she could sell like lemonade or babysit and raise the money and put the money aside for an oxygen tank. This child will remember that moment where that oxygen tank will be given to a volunteer.
Absolutely. And know that something that I think it's such an important lesson, that because sometimes we all can feel so powerless. Like, what can we do? Oh, the world, oh, there's all these problems, people are dying. But here's something you can actually do, you can put into action, and you can see the impact and know that you actually have power.
Right.
You actually can do something to make a change for the better.
So I'll tell you, a few years ago, we had a child who did a bar mitzvah project, and he raised money, and it did so well that they bought an ambucycle.
Wow.
And they put the name of the kid on it. And a few years passed, and this kid went to Israel on one of these programs, school programs. And this kid was already 16 years old. And they were up north in Israel, and it was a hot day, and one of the kids fainted. And they called for help. And the first volunteer who showed up was an ambucycle of United Hatzalah, and he looks at it and he sees his name on it.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. That's amazing.
This kid is never going to stop giving.
No, and all those other kids who were there. Again, these are such impactful moments in life. Eli, it's been such an honor to have you here, and just thank you for everything that you and each and every one of your incredible volunteers do every single day, without a thought, without any hesitation, going in, doing what needs to be done immediately, and saving lives. So thank you to you and to United Hatzalah.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Eli Beer is the founder and president of United Hatzalah. And make sure to check out the Leight Legacy Heroes initiative and everything that United Hatzalah does. Thank you for being here.